Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're joined today by an absolute legend, gifted pianist, keyboardist, a wizard in many ways, Don Preston. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi.
It was beautiful, man. I want you to talk to the audience. A lot of people don't know this about you. You had a chance to play bass with Elvin Jones. I want you to talk about Ollie Jackson and the idea of how you connected with those guys and how that really helped you.
Well, many people don't know Ollie was I can't think of his name.
Ollie Jackson.
Huh?
Oh, he's Milt's brother.
Yeah, Milt Jackson's brother. Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
Bags, yeah.
Milton. He was the bass player in this group that played at the West End Cafe 1954, 55. And so I used to go down there, and Ollie had just gotten through playing for 4 hours. And so I asked him if I could sit in, and he said, sure, please. So I sat in that night, and then for the next 2 years, I came down there every weekend and played bass with those guys, because that was a challenge and a thrill, and probably one of the best music things that I ever got involved with.
Can you talk about Elvin, how he stretched you out on the bass, and also how you interpret the African rhythms, how they interpret those rhythms? You told me in the radio interview, but I want you to tell the worldwide audience.
Well, I wouldn't say stretched out would be appropriate at that time, although I was leaning in that direction. But I always thought that well, of course, jazz came out of religious music, and the blues, of course, and before that, it came from Africa. And one of the things about African music back in those days, because it's not happening nowadays, is that most of the music was based on 6/8 rhythms, which would be like 1, 2, 3. And so on. Sure, Abel Richards could do a lot better of a job than me. But
So we got a lot of cats tuning in, man. You're having a ball. Anyway, yeah, but anyway, 6/8. They heard it in 6/8.
Your contemporary jazz, at least back in the 50s and 60s, was loosely based on that. That's why at the time classical musicians couldn't play jazz. I mean, they couldn't read it because
It wasn't notated.
It was notated like all eighth notes, but it was really based on all of those notes being in a triplet pattern. I'll just give you an idea.
Yeah, why don't you demonstrate?
So if you played like all right, so I'm playing it like that, but if you hear it the way I'm hearing it, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. of that is da 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 and so on. So you can see how that is all fits into a 6/8 pattern. But that's to me where jazz was. Nowadays, classical musicians kind of understand that, but back then they didn't understand that, and of course they wanted to play the music exactly how it was written, which wouldn't have sounded that good.
You were on the bandstand with Elvin, and can you talk about the idea of losing the one, like understanding inherently where the one is by feel, but not overly concerned about where's the one, because you guys would go off.
Well, you're thinking way many years after that.
You guys were just playing.
In 1954 or 1952, or no, not 52, but 54 and 55. We were just playing Yusuf Lateef's songs and other jazz standards.
Can you play a Yusuf tune from that time? Is that or something that you remember?
Oh, I don't remember any of that, especially since I played bass on it. You know,
you played bass on it.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
So, I mean, of course, Alvin at the time, even though we're playing standard jazz standards, his playing was really unusual. And now most drummers do this, but it seemed like Elvin was doing it way more. He was playing a different rhythm with every part of his body, and I mean different. I mean it wasn't something that. I mean it was constantly changing.
Yes.
And
this is what I'm getting at.
That's the thing drummers don't do. I mean, they play dun 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 dun, you know, and Alvin was just constantly changing everything all the time. And I'll tell you one thing about him that blew me away.
Yeah.
Some young guy got up in the stand to play piano, and so they started some song off, probably like. All the Things You Are, or something like that, and we're playing like this, a tempo about like that fast. So it's like. All of a sudden, Elvin turns around to the piano player and he starts calling the changes out, all the changes, and it was like, as fast as that tempo was, you'd wonder how anybody could do that, let alone a drummer knowing all the changes and being able to convey that to the piano player who, I don't know if he could get it that fast, you know, but that just blew me away, because there weren't many drummers that could do that at that particular time.
Is there a way to quantify what you learned on the bandstand at that time? How it helped you?
You know, it was, you know, I didn't, the theory that I just talked about, like 6/8 and everything, I didn't have that at that time. But I noticed there was a subtle difference in the way that, now you got to realize this was entirely an all-black band.
Who was in the band?
In fact, it was a black restaurant in a black part of Detroit.
The West End Cafe.
Well, they say West End, but it was actually the south part of Detroit, which was mostly black. And they accepted me without a problem, you know, it wasn't at all. And I have to look back and say, well, I must have been playing bass pretty damn good, because Elvin Jones wouldn't have allowed me to play, you know, not more than one gig. So I mean, I can't play that well now. I mean, I haven't. You have to really work hard at developing, you know, the muscles that play that beat and be able to play and know the chords and everything that you're playing. Unless you're playing in a free band, which doesn't have any chords and.
Who were some of the cats that would come in from out of town? Would Coltrane come in? Who came in from out of town that you played with?
Oh, Coltrane didn't exist then. I mean,
He was playing in R&B bands, or
he was a little boy then.
he was a little boy.
But Red Norvo came in. There was a bunch of people that came in that I didn't. Well, Milt Jackson came in and played the piano like 2 fingers, and he did a great job. Couldn't believe it. There were some local guys. Pepper Adams came in.
Donald Byrd.
I didn't see him. No.
Did you see Kenny Burrell at all?
I mean, he may have come in and I didn't know who he was or something. I mean, I didn't. Because I don't think he was famous at that time.
Sure. Can you, Okay, yeah. So we'll just continue. Would you play a piece of music now for the audience? Could you play something for them?
Sure. I'll tell you. You know, we were talking about Barry Harris.
Yeah.
I was playing a piece by Bud Powell, and Barry. Oh man! So Bud Powell I was really a big fan of Bud Powell.
Yeah. Let's be clear. I mean, Bud Powell, the father of it all, really.
Kind of, yeah. I mean,
for a lot of the cats, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was learning this piece called Un Poco Loco. And so there were a few things that I couldn't quite get, you know, and Barry Harris showed me, because he was played a lot of Bud Powell at the time. So it just kind of goes like this.
Don Preston cooking away here, man. I mean, did you ever consider yourself a bop purist, or did you were always open to just music? It was always music to you.
What was the other thing?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people will say, like, oh, you're not playing people that came out of bebop.
Oh.
They were bop purists.
Bop purist.
Okay,
Ah.
and you veer off in the '60s. When you start cooking on more the electronic side, but it's always. I just want to get Don Preston's concept of music, or it's all music.
Well, music is music, and it's all made out of 12 tones. There's only 12 tones there, and you have,
Harry Partch came up with the 43 tone octave.
That's true. Harry had 43 tones. I played all of his instruments.
You did.
It was a lucky thing. I went over to his house. He didn't know me, and I didn't know him, and he invited me in. He says, "Oh, try this, the diamond marimba. Play the bass marimba. You can't hear it 10 feet away because the wave goes over your head," and so on and so forth. And I was also a good friend of Betty Freeman's, and I'm not sure if I introduced them, but somehow they got together, and she did a film on him that was really beautiful and showed, him as a person and also his wonderful, beautiful instruments that he built himself. That's quite amazing.
When was the first time you began to really create your own compositions?
Oh God, I started writing in 1950. I joined the army and was playing in a PX in Trieste, Italy. And this guy came over and said, "Hey, you play pretty good. Why don't you join the 98th Army Band?" I said, "How do I do that?" He said, "I'll set it up for you." And so he did, and I played an audition for the band and got in the band. And the guy was Herbie Mann. So I wound up playing with him for a couple of years while in the Army. And he was great. He actually played tenor saxophone when I knew him.
Herbie Mann was playing tenor sax at that time.
And he's a very good flute player too, as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Obviously. Before he left the band, he made an announcement to a few of us guys that love jazz, and he said, "Mark my words, I'm going to be in the Downbeat Jazz Poll before you know it." And he was in the poll, and he won many polls over the years.
People are calling for more. We have Noel Jukes and Mark Levine, Dom Fumolaro tuning in. So play whatever you feel, but people want to see. They love your playing, man. So
Really? And how do you know that?
Their comments.
Oh.
Yeah. Don Preston on full display here, man.
Let's see here. I can't think of anything. Do you have to pay royalty to Zappa if I play one of his songs?
Absolutely. No. Play one of Frank's songs. That would be fantastic. And if you can announce which one it is, that would be great.
I'll try one.
Zappa.
Sorry?
I hear Zappa.
Yeah.
What tune was that?
Uncle Meat.
How did you meet Frank originally?
And there were 5 stages around this giant room. And there was a stage in the center of the room, kind of like an island. And
Was it a circle stage thing, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't circular. It was just a stage, you know. And one of the people that was also marooned on this island was Frank. So we started talking, and I gave him my card. He gave me his card, and that's the way we did things back then. And so a couple weeks later, he called me and asked me if I wanted to play a job, do an audition for a job, and I did, and we did, and we played this song, "Oh No." It's like, goes like this. So you may have noticed that that song is entirely in 7/4, and people had some trouble dancing to 7/4. They couldn't find out where 1 was, you know, when they were moving their feet in a square.
Sure.
So we didn't get that job.
It was actually it was a live gig. It was just a regular. It wasn't a studio date or anything. It was just.
Well, it was an audition for a live gig.
What kind of places was Frank playing at? Was it considered a rock club or like?
He wasn't playing at it. We auditioned.
I did, but what kind of place was it? I mean,
It was a bar
Yeah.
called the Bank Club in Santa Ana, I think. Then later on, he showed up at my house, and no. He used to come over, and I had a band that rehearsed. We rehearsed the films of Microscopic Life and Car Wash, which is a great art film, and other films like that. And he would come over and bring some of his own films, and we'd jam to those. Now, when I say jam, I had the inside of an upright piano. I had some drive shafts that were hung on a thing they were like gongs or chimes. And I had leaf springs laid out like a marimba, so you could play them with mallets. And I had some brake drums. I had about 8 of those. And those things are heavy. And so anyhow, we had a lot of junk to play on, and guess who taught Frank to play the bicycle? I had a bicycle there too, and later on he played the bicycle on Steve Allen's Tonight Show.
you taught him how to play it.
Yes.
You know, I want to make sure we get this in. You were very influenced by some of the avant-garde classical composers of the 50s.
Oh yeah.
Can you? Would you be able to play a piece that was inspiring to you, or something that you created on your own?
I actually did play a piece. It was Drei Klaverstück by Arnold Schoenberg. That was
in the intro. Okay, yeah.
That thing. So, but there's other pieces I liked, like.
Yeah.
That's a very short excerpt from The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky.
You talk about the legacy of you're wearing the Moog shirt. When did you get your hands on a Moog?
I bought my Mini Moog in 1971, I think. Maybe 1970. I had gone up to Trumansburg, New York, and went to the Moog factory and met Bob and talked to him a lot. And he showed me around. He was a very gracious person, beautiful person, and remained my friend for the rest of the time until he died. Died about 8 years ago. And but all during that time, I was very interested in that kind of equipment because I could use that to create some of the electronic sounds that I heard, from Luigi Nono and also what's his name? I can't think of his name now. Another Italian composer.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned his name.
Luciano Berio.
Who?
Luciano Berio.
Yeah, Berio.
So you heard these electronic sounds, and you were able to replicate those on the Moog.
Yeah, yeah.
Just for the audience out there, people that are going to be listening years down the road, you were put on this album, Turn of the Century, music of the
21st century.
Yeah. What were you? Why did you get to putting your? Don't be modest. Why? What was your contribution? What were you doing that was different? That was singular?
Well, once again, I was doing classical electronic music, and everyone else was they didn't know about that kind of stuff. So that's what my piece kind of sounded a lot different than all the other stuff on that album. And
how did it sound? How did it sound different?
Boy, well, I think the main thing that caused it to be different was that I had no aspiration to do anything commercial or even likable, if you would. And I had already done this piece, not something that. Neil Norman came over and asked me if I had something, and I had just finished this beautiful piece. And Tina's on it as well. She's really great at doing sounds with her voice, which I've always been a fan of. And so was God. Why can't I think of his name? It's gone already.
Berio? Luciano
Berio.
Yeah, dude, the man.
Because Kathy Barbarian was his wife,
sure,
who appeared on John Cage albums and all kinds of other composers. And interestingly, I did an electronic music concert about 7 years ago, and Christina Berio came to it, who was their daughter. And that was a big thrill for me.
I really want to ask you, Tommy Flanagan was a hero to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were good friends, but also, once again, I enjoyed his playing very much. He was really great.
Could you humor the audience and play a bop tune or a tune for Tommy?
Oh, boy, you're asking an awful lot there. I'm trying to think of something that I can play.
I know. I'm sure it's been a minute since you dusted it off, but you've been on fire the entire time here.
Oh, man. Let me see.
For the audience, what tune was that?
I don't even know the name of that song.
But it's just something that you guys used to groove on, or that Tommy would play, or you would be. It was in the heyday of the '50s.
Say that again.
I mean, it was just a tune that I asked you to play a tune for Tommy, but that reminded you of Tommy Flanagan.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the calling? Have you always had a calling for music?
A calling. I guess so. My father he was a musician, wrote a lot of music, played a lot of music, had pieces played by the Detroit Philharmonic, and he tried to persuade me not to be a musician, although he did provide piano lessons for me. And he showed me one thing on the piano, and that's it. I mean, he could play pretty well, but he didn't want me to be a musician. He knew it was a hard life,
But you sought it out. You had a calling. You had to seek it.
I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I could play the piano good, pretty good, even when I didn't even know anything about music. But on the other hand, sometimes you're making tons of money, and sometimes you're not making any money.
And you've never been a commercial guy anyway. You've never been wanting to make anything.
I can't help it.
Just before I let you go, talk about this gig with Marshall Allen and who Marshall Allen is you got coming up.
All right, Marshall Allen is he is an alto player that played in the band Sun Ra, in the orchestra is what they called it. And then Sun Ra died, and Marshall, I don't know, I would assume that Marshall wrote a lot of the music anyhow.
Really?
And so he took over the band, and they still work. They still have a lot of work, at various times and places. But he's coming out to the West Coast, and I'm fortunate to be able to play with him. When I was in Chicago, I met him, and he said, "Come on down and sit in with the band." So I did. So I actually played in Sun Ra's band for a couple hours.
What was that experience like?
And that was great. It was fantastic. And Marshall's a great musician. He's 95, and he's still going strong. I mean, he's unstoppable. I mean, I feel like I'm wearing out now. You know what I mean? I'm 85, and so is Abel, and he's going pretty strong too.
I'm sorry, just before, tell me about this band that you were in with Emil and Ashish Khan.
Well, before that, we had a band together, Emil and I, with a guy named Paul Beaver.
Yeah.
Who
Music Concrete.
He made some albums with Beaver and Krauss.
Sure.
And so Emil and I and Paul Beaver, it was just the three of us, and this other guy, Michael Creighton, who was an artist and painted while we played. And we only played 3 jobs as far as I can remember. Because we wouldn't play a job that we would have to rehearse or we even knew about, you know.
I love it.
It would have to be spontaneous.
Absolutely.
Just like this.
Absolutely, man.
And so that was called AHA, the Aesthetic Harmony Assemblage, if you want to get really...
So it was an acronym. That's interesting. Wow, unbelievable. And then how did Ashish made it into the picture?
No, not that. But later on I had a band called Ogomoto. And that band had, Emil was in that band, along with the Parlata brothers, and somebody else was in this band, but I can't remember who it was. But there might have been a guitar player or something like that. But yeah, we played these gigs with Ashish, Speaking of Ashish, boy, I'm sorry, but my memory is not what it used to be.
Oh, don't apologize.
There was I had played this job with a group. It wasn't a group, but a band that somebody put together, and it was playing flamenco.
Mm.
But he had a tabla player in the flamenco group, right?
Way out.
And because it was North African flamenco, and it was supposed to be unusual, he even got paid to have a singer come here from Africa and everything. But the tabla player, it blew me away, completely blew me away. And I said, wow, I said, you're really fantastic. And I said, who did you study from? And he said, Alaraka. He's my dad.
Zakir.
Zakir Hussain. So I got to play with him. I've been very fortunate. I've played with some of the best drummers ever,
An absolutely distinguished career. The legacy continues. Don Preston, man, thank you for being part of the program. This is my final trip, final stop here in Southern California. So happy New Year, Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you, my